Jokic is a better offensive player than LeBron ever was, my
Put him
brother.
up. Put him up.
So I need to clarify something off the top, which is I don't think Jokic is as good as LeBron was at his peak overall. I think there's a huge transition and defense element with LeBron. And LeBron was nearly this good offensively when he was at his best. The main thing for me, there's this lack of variance that comes with Jokic. You remember with LeBron where it was like, okay, if his jumper's not going in, he's still the best player in the world, but it feels like it's kind of closer. But then on the nights when LeBron had his jumper going, it was like you just get to lose. Like there was just nothing anybody could do with the guy, right? And because Jokic just depends on so many of these shorter range shots that don't have a lot of variance, there's a stat that Synergy has. It's called score percentage. It just takes the percentage of possessions that end in points. And basically, what ends up happening is when you get into these late game situations with Jokic, because there's no variance, because it's all these like little short hook shots and floaters, and even his jump shot, it usually is like a turn and face, like kind of 10, 12 footer kind of thing. He just doesn't have much variance. So he just feels more like a sure thing on a possession by possession to generate offense. And really that's what it is when I watch the Nuggets, regardless of surrounding talent, I can't ever remember watching a player, including LeBron, who made it look this easy to generate great shots. And again, LeBron's close on that front. I just think there was a little bit more variance with LeBron. LeBron, I think, was as good of a playmaker as Jokic. And I think LeBron, in the large sample, was as effective as a scorer. But in the small sample, there's just this thing with Jokic where it's like everything is so methodical and so dependable that it just feels like they scored on 7 straight possessions at the end of that Kings game the other night. 7 possessions in a row. You remember the Jamal Murray game winner in game 2 of the first round series last year? They scored on 9 of their last 10 possessions. Like it's so methodical and it's so unstoppable. And that to me is like just that difference. Again, not the same type of player in the big picture, but strictly looking at the lens of creating shots on offense. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do it as easily as he does it.
So your argument would be that Jokic is a more efficient point generator, basically, than LeBron.
On the singular possession. So like these analytics nerds have just gotten they just dove into this like large sample. We're gonna get all these threes, and it's gonna be worth more points per possession in this massive sample, right? Well, like the Jokic thing is all about the small sample because his shots, like he shoots 70% on hooks and floaters, 70%. So like if you leave him in single coverage in the post, it's not just a bucket, it's a bucket damn near every single time. Like LeBron, you remember like when in 2018 he had that like right shoulder fadeaway locked in. Remember that was like his move where it was like if he turned over that right shoulder from 10 to 15 feet, it's like he was hitting it probably like 55% of the time, which is like amazing. And that's what you see from the Kawhis and the KDs. They're in that like mid 50s, low 60s on those types of shots. It's just still not quite as dependable as those short range Jokic shots that he's just so damn good at making, which by the way, if he misses it, he'll probably just bowl into you and grab the offensive rebound, right? And like there's a certain like, oh, you help on Jokic and he's kicking out to people, but that, is more or less the same concept that we got from LeBron when he was younger. But yeah, to me, it's the small sample dependability of Jokic that is a differentiator between him and the rest of the league.
Okay. Um, you're leaning fully on half court offense, it sounds like.
Mm.
And I think one of the to be clear, we're all LeBron guys here, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
So am I.
I think Jokic is phenomenal. Yeah, and I know you're a Bron guy too.
That's the
And
only
we're
reason
Jokic
we'll
guys
have
too.
this
We're
conversation
Jokic guys
with
too.
you.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Jokic is phenomenal. I think he is a singular talent. I am totally on board with you. If you would consider him the most versatile offensive center we've ever seen. And to your point, I don't think that necessarily makes him better than guys like Akeem or Shaq or whatever. That's a discussion to be had. But I think he's for sure the most versatile offensive center we've ever seen. But as I mentioned, you're discussing a lot of what he does in the half court, and he's fucking surgical in the half court. One of my counters onto why I think LeBron is a better offensive player is that he was a weapon in full court and transition, right? Like Bron with a head of steam and transition was the scariest fucking sight in the NBA for like 15 years. And
maybe in any sport, Tyler.
right. And still in his old age, there's still some times where he's got a head of steam and he's still a freight train, right? And I think that is an area where LeBron, has a check mark, checks a box that Jokic doesn't. I'm willing to concede that Jokic is a better passer than LeBron. And I say that as a guy who had that as a bullet point on my PowerPoint presentation for why I think LeBron was a GOAT, right? Like that was always one of my bullet points, is that I think Bron is the best passing non-point guard we've ever seen. And I think Jokic has supplanted LeBron there. I think it's Jokic, Bron, and Bird there, right? But I don't, of course, I don't think that he's better in transition in the full court. I'll be willing to hear you out that he's perhaps more surgical in the half court, but I don't know. We've seen what Bron has done with his supporting cast. Like, take a look at that 2008, 2009 roster. He won 66 games with those dudes. He won 66 games with 2009 Ben Wallace starting. You know what I mean?
Like Williams was the second best player on that team, bro.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's
where is that? I just want to drive home though, because Tyler talked about this when we were talking before we recorded yesterday. Whereas with Jokic, we're talking about like, can they recover from losing Bruce Brown? Can they recover? Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's not losing Dwayne Wade. He's losing guys that would have been the best dude Bron played with in Cleveland, but he just was doing it, like you said, with Mo Williams was Robin. You know what I mean?
Do we think that 08, 09 LeBron is best LeBron? I think it's 2018 LeBron. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think 2012, 2013 Bron is the best regular season Bron, and I think 2018 Bron is the best postseason Bron.
That's a good take. That's a really good take because his motor in 2013 and like LeBron was like attacking every regular season game like a playoff game back then. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I just feel like a player. What would like Mike was saying? What could Jokic do with the players that Bron had back in the day? And I think I think as he's a great passer, but Bron not only passed well, like the way he created for other players. You know what I mean? Like other players had their best years with Bron. We could so many other players did. So I just feel like when it comes to offensive, I'm thinking of like, he even lifted up his teammates in a way Joker didn't. You know what I'm saying? So he might not be a better passer, but I think he's a better creator for others. You know what I'm saying? And I think with his brain, watching Bron live for the first time, he was playing the Hawks. And Kevin Love was in the corner, and it was like he threw the ball before the defense shifted. Like, you know what I'm saying? And as the defense shifted, the ball zoomed by them. And I was like, does he know them more than them niggas know themselves? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's crazy. You know what I mean? Live, it just seems so unreal. But I just feel like the levels he could go to as well. Like, do you remember the game where Ray Allen, I think it was game 6? When Ray Allen hit that shot, or game 5?
Yeah, game 6.
Game 6, yes. The moments leading up to that, where Bron put his head down when they were down like 10, it seemed like this game was over, the series was done.
One of his best games,
and he was like, fuck everything. I remember like
he lost that headband and hasn't worn it since.
Bro,
like, that was literally the last time he wore a headband in an NBA game, dog.
On some nerd shit, I was like, Optimus Bron! Like I just yelled at speaking, bro. Because the man put his head down and like the fucking team was on the other end of that. You know what I'm saying? Kawhi, like, these are gods. And he was like, I don't give a fuck who you are. Get out the way. We're taking this over. Joker is so good. You know what I mean? But I believe where Bron could go and what he did for others, as well as a transition, it's just hard for me to say somebody's a better offensive player than Bron. But your points make sense. Like the reliability. But like people like Tim Duncan, like it seemed like whenever Tim Duncan got the ball at his peak, bucket. And he had that same little within 15 feet, you know what I'm saying? He had that off the glass joint, which was, I don't know what the percentage was, but it felt like 1,000%, nigga, you know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, like I just feel like, there have been players similar to Joker in the reliability is what you're saying. But on the offensive end as a whole, I've just never seen anybody do what Bron's done. And I would say even with reliability or like just scoring in general, I think Jordan's the best scorer I've ever seen. You know what I mean? Like there were
Pure
years when he was, like,
scoring.
shooting what,
Yeah.
pure scoring alone. So if we're talking about that, I think Jordan would be number one. But yeah, but I wonder like what your approach is too, because you didn't mention Jordan as far as like how do you feel about Jordan? Because you didn't mention Jordan as far as the athletes when you were bringing up like as far as Kobe, Bron, all this. You didn't
Oh, I
mention
just
MJ.
when I saw the clip, I was like, oh, I left MJ out. But yeah, like
Okay, okay.
obviously MJ
Yeah, okay.
belongs. The couple things. First of all, that 2013 Game 6, I remember as a kid. That was back in my First Take watching days when I used to wake up in the morning and watch First Take, just like all of us did, you know.
Different
And
time,
like,
different time.
yeah,
Man.
and like I remember being so annoyed with Skip Bayless because Skip was like, "Oh, well, he had these 2 turnovers at the end, and Ray Allen saved his life, and he missed the 3 before." And it's like, well, first of all, he made the 3 before the Ray Allen 3 that gave the Ray Allen 3 a chance to tie the game. Secondly, like that series was over. They were down double figures or double
Period.
digits. It was over. Everyone in the arena knew
Period.
it was over. Everyone watching on TV is like, this team is dead. Like the Spurs are going to win. And then, like you said, LeBron literally saved that game. Like he just. Like and so this is where I actually have to say, Tyler, your take about transition has made me want to kind of modify my take a bit, because I do think that Jokic in the half court just makes it look easier to a small degree than LeBron did. But like, especially in that 2000, that Miami Heat phase, LeBron would have these stretches. I don't know if you guys remember this, and tell me if this kind of rings a bell. But like it always felt like LeBron would have these like 5 to 7 minute stretches in big playoff games where he'd kind of hit the jets as an athlete. And it was like, oh, he just blocked somebody at the rim and now he's flying down the floor in transition and drawing 3 bodies on like a gather around the basket and then pitching it out to Shane Battier in the left corner for 3. And then he's running back and he's making another help side rotation and he's getting another defensive rebound and he's running down the floor and he's scoring and then he's running down the floor and he's dishing it off to Chris Bosh. And it's like he would have these stretches where he would literally push in transition every single possession, like 6, 7, 8 times in a row, and get great shots. And like, I do think Jokic is a good transition player because he actually like outruns a lot of the more athletic centers in the league just because he runs hard every single possession. And then 2, he's just really good at kick ahead passes. But LeBron in his prime was another level of transition offensive player. I'll give you that. And so like, and to be clear, again, I still think that Jokic was bad defensively last year in the playoffs. He was pretty good in 2023 when they won the title, but he was bad last year. It's been uneven this year in the regular season. In the big picture, I still think there's a pretty decent gap between where and by the way, Jokic is about to win his 4th MVP in 5 years. So like, let's be clear, like he's doing something that the last guy who did it was LeBron. Like this is the type of all-time great that we're witnessing.
They put a cap on Bron and they did not put it on Joker though.
That's true. And LeBron definitely, like LeBron, there are some MVPs that I think people just say LeBron deserved and he probably didn't, but there are definitely some where I thought he deserved. I mean, I thought he deserved 2020 as recently as 2020. But like, again, I think in the big picture, LeBron is clearly a better player. But when you just focus on like that half court offense piece, I've literally never seen anybody make it look as easy as he makes it look. He's always playing on 2 feet. He's always on the ground. He doesn't ever look tired. It's the weirdest thing.
Weird.
This is the one thing that's weird to me about Jokic, and I wonder what you guys think. How much of this do you think is the changes of the game in transition and in pace and space to where we just don't have that many big-bodied centers anymore, so no one's big enough for him? Yeah. Like, what if Jokic played in the late 90s, early 2000s, where we constantly had 2 big looks and all the centers were 300 pounds?
His nose would go in 8 different directions because he would have been getting busted in the face trying to stand at the free throw line and look around to pass. I mean, it's just, yes, like I do think that's part of it with Joker is if you created a player to fit into the efficiency model of the current NBA, he's who you would create. Bron, you put his offensive game from 1950 to tomorrow, I think he's as dominant in basically every era. You know what I mean? I do think that's part of it for me.
Yeah,
that's a good point. He needs to be bigger.
I think to this day, the defender who I've seen give him the most trouble in the playoffs was Bubble Dwight Howard. And Dwight Howard was 58 years old at that time. You know what I mean? So I think he's for sure, benefiting from how the game has evolved a bit.
Absolutely. Cat gave him issues. Nas Reed gave him issues. We've seen
Nas, for
Joel.
sure.
We've
I was
seen
gonna say the
Joel. We've seen
Timberwolves,
Joel
like
Embiid
the
give
two
him
bigs of the
issues.
Timberwolves. That's like sort of the exact story. When he can't do the dunker spot lob to Aaron Gordon, and he has a 7-footer on him, it's a little bit limiting when he's going against teams
It
with
seems
two
like it's
bigs.
more than size, though. It's also athleticism. You know what I'm saying? Because Dwight's dummy athletic. Nas is athletic as fuck. You know, Cat is there as well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there were some pretty athletic centers back then as well as they had the size too. So
To be clear though, like he also annihilated them in Game 5, like for one of the greatest playoff performances in the history of the league. So like the thing is like I'm not saying like, oh, if Jokic played in a league with bigger centers, he wouldn't be good. I'm just saying it probably wouldn't look as easy and he probably wouldn't be as dominant. That I do think that's a fair point.
The other thing I just wanted to drive home, because I do occasionally like to throw the like caveman like basketball approach. Like I think all of the arguments you're making are 100% true and totally make sense when viewing the game through the lens of efficiency. And I completely agree with you. I watched that whole Kings game. You could see in the same way that Braun would decide, I'm going to break records on Earth for land mammals of force displacement, of like how fast you can move 270 pounds of muscle. You can see Jokic click into like robot mode. Like, all right, we're going to score on every. Okay, how much time is left? Okay, now is when we need to score on every possession for the rest of the game. I'm just going to make sure that we do that 70%, everything you're saying.
If Denver's down 8 with 4 minutes left, it doesn't feel like the game is over. It's crazy.
It feels like, yeah. And so I would almost argue that's one of the like viewership things I have with the efficiency model of the NBA is like, so should I just turn the game on with 4 minutes left? Like when I'm watching the Nuggets. But what I would say is this: it has never been the case, other than through sort of like analytical discussions, that efficiency was the most valued thing about basketball. It's always been about emotion and about passion, because it is physically, scientifically proven that the more efficient way to shoot free throws will be underhanded. Like based on how the ball bounces, if it's coming from that angle, it would be more efficient. And not one person in the National Basketball Association is willing to do the most efficient thing,
to cut off their nuts and shoot under the
and so that's an extreme that's an extreme example. That's an extreme example. Like I'm not I don't mean to be judgmental about Jokic. I'm just saying, so that to me is the proof that that's not the goal. And like that's why you don't see the allegiance to Tim Duncan that you see to Kobe Bryant, even though by every analytical model you would say Tim Duncan was a more efficient player. But there is a like cult around Kobe because of what he inspired in people. And I do personally just have that with Braun over Jokic, and always will, because like I've never felt what I felt when he would be in transition and you'd just be like, try and take a charge, please, I'm begging you.
There were times when he would get the rebound, release, take off, and beat everybody down court and boom that bitch. I'm like, what the fuck? Did y'all see what just happened?
Yeah, there was a Knicks game in like 2013 or 2014 where he got a defensive rebound and all 5 Knicks were in front of him and he just ran through all of them and dunked it. Yeah, and all the Knicks media people were pissed. They're like, he's outrunning us. We're being lazy. I'm like, it's LeBron James.
And that's the thing. Like, if they would have ran full speed, it wouldn't have helped. And I think they understand that more because they're seeing him, right next, but like, it was just insane where there was points where just nobody can do anything. And I know Joker has nobody can do anything with Joker. He does what he wants on the basketball court, but I don't know, with Braun, it just seemed a different level, even just going off the offensive side, that Joker hasn't quite reached to me. But also I was younger. I was way more obsessed. You know what I mean? And so during that time
are we going to be the guys?
Yeah.
Are we going to be the guys just like the MJ guys who are like, no, he's not as good. He's not as good. Like, is that going to be us in 10 years?
I don't know. I don't know if I will be that guy. I think I'm that guy now. I don't know if I will care. I don't know if I'll care enough to be that guy in the future. You know what I mean? But I still care enough. You know what I'm saying now? So
I think like,
but your points they're good points. They're good points. You know what I'm saying? Like everything you said, I agreed with. but I just didn't feel like, you know what I mean? You know, my emotions weren't validated in your, you know what I'm saying?
Jokic doesn't have the cultural resonance that LeBron did. That's
Yeah.
just a fact.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt that like Jokic does it in a way that's very boring. Like, no one wants to see a little short half hook, you know, every single time down the floor. But like, that's how he dominates you. You know,
It's kind of there is an element of it, and I want to emphasize again because I know I do occasionally sound like I'm being a Jokic hater. In full appreciation of his greatness, it does feel a little bit like watching a dad play basketball against his middle school kid. Like the middle school kid could be very talented, and you're just gonna put your ass on him and pin him under the block and get a, you know, like, so there is an element of that. Whereas with Braun, down 3, 2 minutes left, dribbling the ball at the top of the key, you're like, anything can happen right now. You know what I mean?
He was a superhuman. He wasn't just a dad playing in middle school. He was a different type of human, it seemed like. You know what I mean? When we watched
I also
when
think
the young LeBron clips come up, still to this day they shock me. Like, which is crazy because I grew up watching it. But like, still to this day, I'll watch like the dunk on James Johnson and I'll be like, oh my God. Like, if we saw that today, we would lose it for a week. Like, what the hell? Like, it's crazy.
And that's what I think is sort of the unquantifiable element of LeBron James is the athleticism at that size. Like, that can vault you above a lot of things. Like, you can throw Gobert and Cat against Jokic, and he's able to, he has the brain to figure it out or whatever. But there was a certain, like, at every position, defensively also, like in every part of basketball, if you are a supreme, the best athlete in the NBA, you can overcome a lot of challenges that you might not be able to otherwise. Like, there's just and that's almost not quantifiable. It's like a singular moment. If you doesn't matter who you put in front of LeBron James and the 2012 version of him, he's a better athlete than them, period.
Like in the
That's Giannis.
Which is right. There's like a certain
Yep.
Yeah,
you
what
just
Giannis
nothing
did to
you can do
OKC.
about it.
Like Shea's the best shot maker, one of the best shot makers in the league, except for you end up in this game. And guess what? It's not a shot making game. It's a bloodbath. So who's the bigger, better athlete? Who's going to do a better job bowling over everybody? And it's like Giannis was so much better than Shea in that game.
Yeah.
And it's just because it was that type of game. And to your point, Jackson, like, and this is something I'm leaning on a lot more as we've become more of a transition league and more of a play in space, like space teams out driving kick type of team. You gotta be one of those athletes, and it really does make that big of a difference.
Braun is like a historical type of athlete, and it's just every 3 decades or whatever. Like Wilt Chamberlain running the 800 in 2 minutes, or I think his mile time was 4 minutes 45 seconds. We're not gonna get one of those every 3 years. You know what I mean? Like, you get a couple of those a century. And Braun, I just think, is that, and where there is the analytical approach to GMs can't build plans around, maybe we get the one guy every 50 years who has that type of body. I'm just very comfortable as a fan being like, I don't give a fuck how hard you work or how good the plan is. I just know if you can't do something that this dude could do, then, you know, like, again, if people who saw Wilt Chamberlain live, of course they think everyone else sucks. He's 7 foot tall. He could high jump 45 feet or whatever, and he could run a mile in 4 minutes. Like, of course you would not let anyone else think like, you look at Shaq and go, he's fat. You know what I mean? Like,
it's the most wonderful time of the year for getting in on all the hoops, football and hockey action at DraftKings Sportsbook. In the season of giving, we're being gifted college football and basketball, pro football and basketball, and pro hockey too, almost 24/7.
So many games every day, so many opportunities to place your first bet. Try betting on something simple like picking a team to win. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and place your bet. And here's a gift for all new customers. Bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins.
download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code Jenkins. That's code Jenkins for new customers to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you bet just $5. Happy holidays from DraftKings. The crown is yours.